Have you ever thought that your favorite board game, chess, was once considered so dangerous that it was banned by kings and religious leaders? It sounds crazy, right? But this game of strategy and intellect has a surprisingly rebellious past. Let's dive into the secret history of why chess was once outlawed. The story begins over 1,000 years ago. Chess, or its early ancestors, spread from India across the Persian Empire and into the Arab world. By the Middle Ages, it had captivated Europe. Knights, nobles, and even kings were obsessed. But not everyone was a fan. In fact, some of the most powerful people in the world saw it as a threat. One of the first major opponents was the Church. In the 11th century, Cardinal Damiani, a prominent figure in the Catholic Church, condemned chess. He saw it as a form of gambling, a frivolous waste of time that distracted people from their religious duties. He even wrote to the Pope, complaining about priests playing the game. This led to one of the earliest known bans on chess within the clergy. Imagine being told you couldn't play a board game because it was considered a sign. The sentiment wasn't just limited to one cardinal. In 1208, the Bishop of Paris, Eudes de Sully, banned chess in his diocese. His reasoning: he believed it led to arguments, swearing, and other unholy behavior. He wasn't entirely wrong. Games of chess, especially when money was involved, could get very heated. Flipped boards and angry words were probably common sights in taverns across Europe. These religious bans weren't just a Christian phenomenon. Early on in Islamic history, some strict interpretations of the Quran also led to prohibitions against chess. The main objections were similar. It was seen as a distraction from prayer and a form of gambling. Also, the game pieces, which were often carved into figures of kings, elephants, and soldiers, were seen by some as a violation of the prohibition against creating idols or representative images. But it wasn't just the religious leaders who had a problem with chess. Kings and rulers also got in on the action. King Louis IX of France, a very pious ruler, banned chess in the 13th century. He felt his subjects should be spending their time on more productive or pious activities. He wanted his knights practicing archery, not pushing pawns. So, what made this simple board game so dangerous in their eyes? Well, there were a few key reasons. First, as we mentioned, was the association with gambling. People would bet huge sums of money on chess games. This led to debt, ruin, and fights. The authorities saw this as a source of social disorder and wanted to stamp it out. The game itself wasn't the problem, but the culture that grew around it was. Second, it was a massive time sink. Chess is not a quick game. A single match can last for hours. Rulers and religious leaders saw this as pure idleness. They believed people were wasting precious time that could be spent working, praying, or training for war. In a world where every hour of labor counted, spending an entire afternoon on a game seemed incredibly wasteful. But there's a third, more subtle reason, and it's perhaps the most interesting one. Chess is a game of pure strategy and intellect. It teaches you to think critically, to plan ahead, and to challenge authority. On the chessboard, a humble pawn can, through clever maneuvering, become a powerful queen. This idea was revolutionary. It suggested that status wasn't fixed and that a commoner could, with the right strategy, overthrow a king. Think about it. In a rigid feudal society where your birth determined your entire life, chess offered a world where only your mind mattered. It was a perfect meritocracy on 64 squares. This was a subversive concept. It encouraged a type of thinking that could be dangerous to an absolute monarchy or a dogmatic church. The game empowers the individual. It tells you that you are in control of your destiny, that your decisions matter, and that you can outwit even the most powerful opponent. For a king who ruled by divine right, that's a scary thought. So, did these bans actually work? Not at all. Banning chess was like trying to ban thinking. It was an impossible task. People loved the game too much. They played it in secret, in back rooms of taverns, in private chambers, and away from the watchful eyes of the authorities. The game went underground. The bans might have even made the game more popular. There's nothing like being told you can't do something to make you want to do it even more. Chess became a quiet act of rebellion, a symbol of intellectual freedom. Players would devise clever ways to hide their game. Some chess sets were disguised as books. When closed, they looked like 2 volumes on a shelf, but when opened, they revealed a chessboard and pieces inside. Over time, the opposition softened. The Renaissance brought a new appreciation for art, science, and intellectual pursuits. chess fit right in. It was no longer seen as a vice of the idle, but as the royal game, a training ground for the mind. Nobles and scholars began to praise it for its ability to teach strategy, foresight, and patience. The very things that once made it seem dangerous now made it seem valuable. By the 15th century, the game had evolved. The queen, once one of the weakest pieces, became the most powerful piece on the board, speeding up the game and making it even more dynamic. This new chess spread like wildfire, and any lingering bans became completely unenforceable and were eventually forgotten. Today, chess is celebrated worldwide. It's taught in schools to improve critical thinking. International tournaments draw massive audiences. It's seen as a symbol of intelligence, strategy, and mental fortitude. It's a testament to the power of a great idea. The game survived because it's more than just a game. It's an art, a science, and a battle of wills. So the next time you sit down for a game of chess, remember its rebellious history. Remember that you're engaging in an activity that was once considered so radical it was outlawed. You're not just moving pieces on a board, you're participating in a centuries-old tradition of strategic thinking and intellectual freedom. It's a game that teaches us that with the right moves, anyone can challenge a king. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this secret history of chess interesting, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories you thought you knew. Let me know in the comments what your favorite thing about chess is. See you in the next video.